Well, it's December 13th, we'll say mid-December, and it's planting time. And what I'm talking about is you need to know when your plants need to be put out. And I'm in zone 8B, and as far as for planting onions or setting them out, setting the plants out, we normally do that from the start of February to mid-February. So onion sets will normally take about uh, 2 months to grow from a seed. And I'm going to try to do a series this year so that you can kind of get an idea of when to start your plants. And if you're up north, which you'd have to, start a little later, you'd have to figure from the date that you transplant and just go back however many weeks to when you should plant your seed. So, it's Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. Let's simplify planting onion seeds. Okay, first thing we want to do is mix you up some type of seed starter. Now you can buy a prepackaged seed starter if that's what you want to do. I sift the compost and then add about a third to half of peat moss with it to give it some good moisture holding abilities. Now today I'm going to be starting in seed starter trays. These are relatively short, but you can start your onion seeds in any type of tray. Earlier in the year I had started my onions in these type of trays. I just filled it up roughly halfway. There's no drain holes. If you pay attention to your water and make sure you keep enough moisture in there, but you don't want it to have water running in there. But this time I'm going to use these starter trays, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these starter trays in one of these trays that are perforated on the bottom, and then I'm actually going to put it in this one. And the reason for that is that when I water it, if I feel like I've got too much water, I can pick it up and I can see how much water's in the bottom, and I can just dump it out. But plus, after these get bigger, I'll move them to the greenhouse and I'll just water them and allow them to dry and water them some more. That way it encourages deep roots. So I'll put them in both of these. These are light duty trays, and that helps it to where I can transport it too. But first thing we want to do is put our soil in our tray, and we're just going to fill this tray up good. And I pick out any sticks or something that might have sifted or got in there from peat moss. Sometimes you have that in there, and other things that are larger. I don't want those in here. It just creates problems when I go to level this. But I'm going to fill this all up all the way across. Now, and one reason why I'm going to these trays here too is it makes it easier if I decide to pot these up and give them more room, if they seem like they're needing more room. With these particular types of trays, it's just a matter of popping it out and putting it into a bigger pot. But then I'm going to pat that down, let it settle in some, smooth it out again, let it settle out some more. Then I'm just going to take and level this tray off so that I don't have a lot of extra there. It's kind of evened out. Now, once I level it off, I'm going to just pat these down a little bit. I'm going to lower them a little bit below, make sure they're patted kind of tight. That'll give a good firm place for the roots to get in, and plus it'll give me a little bit of room, because what I'm going to do once I fill these trays, I'm going to add vermiculite on some. I'm going to add perlite on the others as far as covering my seeds. I won't cover them with with soil. I find it seems to let them pull the tops out easier, but I've had a problem with certain Spanish white onion seeds not germinating with vermiculite on top. So I'm going to see if it's got to do with the vermiculite. So I'll try perlite with those, because that's another option for germinating them. Now some people actually have little boards they make that if they do a lot of seeds, they can just put that board there to push them down the amount that they want, and it's ready to go. But I'm trying to make these level somewhat too, because that way when I sprinkle my seeds here, they'll be more likely to even out instead of being all bunched up in, say, a low spot. Now some people actually take cell trays and they'll plant their seeds individual, but there's no need to do that. Even when you plant them in individuals and you have extras, you still have to separate them out. They do just as well in these, planting multi-seeds and then separating them out once they get bigger and you want to plant them. It's easy to tease the roots apart. But anyway, this is where we're at. We're going to, we do always have kind of a mess here, but we're just going to put this over here, get the rest of this compost back out, or seed starter back out of our way, into the container here. And now we're going to be ready to choose our seeds. Now whenever I plant these, I'm going to be planting 4 different types of onion seeds, and these sweet Spanish white onions have not had a good germination off them. They sent me some more, but it's the same batch. And this first batch that I planted didn't get any. The second that I planted from, I got 4 onions to grow or to sprout. So we're going to try something different here. But we're going to seed this real heavy. Now we want to make sure that we get the seeds only in this half of the containers, but we're going to put quite a few seeds in here, and I'm going to make sure that I kind of try to keep them over here. It's not going to matter, but when you have an onion come up, you would like to know what kind it was. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plant these, and I'm planting these real heavy because I'm not going to try to save any of these seeds. They didn't germinate well, and even though these seeds are dated March of this year, 2020, and maybe it's just 2020 is a bad year, maybe all the way around. But anyway, like I say, I'm going to just continue to spread these out, and I'm going to spread them thick. I don't particularly want to have any of these left, and if they come up real good and they get too heavy in here, what I'll end up doing is I'll move them, I'll take the cell out and put it into a bigger cell so they've got more room to grow. But it's not a problem if they're growing right on top of each other to relocate them. And like I say, this is quite a few seeds that are in here, because this is actually about a half an ounce of onion seeds, which a half an ounce of onion seed is quite a few seeds. But if you look at it close, it almost looks like small charcoal gravel in there. It's just quite a few of them. So anyway, now what we're going to do is right beside these, I have some white sweet hybrids. This is an heirloom seed, and I'm going to try these because I want a white sweet onion. I don't really care if it's a short day or a long day onion, because what's going to happen is these are mainly for table onions. Sweet onions are not good storage onions. So, and I have the Texas Grana, which is a good slicing onion, even though it's a sweet onion too, but none of them is going to be a good storage onion. So most of them will be eaten for when they're small as table onions, or they'll go to the farmer's market. But there's no reason to not seed heavy. And I want to tell you too about onion seeds. Onion seeds germinate the best the first couple years. They start, after 2 years, they start slowing down on their germination rate. So if you have a bunch left, and I might plant these later, I have some of these left, but they'll slow down on their germination rate, and they won't be viable. Like a lot of seeds you can keep for 10 years and they'll still have a 75% germination rate, but these really go down in a hurry. Now what I'm going to do here, because I've had such a problem, I'm going to take, and I have perlite. Normally I would use vermiculite, but this time I'm going to use perlite. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle a lot of this on top of here. Now perlite does give a little bit of nutrition, and which is good, but it will help to act like a mulch. It'll hold a little bit of water in there to keep these seeds moist enough to germinate. Now I know onion seeds say plant a 1/2 inch deep. Now I never plant my onions a 1/2 inch deep. Normally when I'm planting the seeds, I never plant them that deep. I always just plant them maybe a 1/4 inch deep. But it's just a matter of, and it's not hard to tell where you put this on there, because the different contrasting in the colors. And then after I do this, I'm just going to kind of pat this whole thing down. And I'm going to spray this with water to moisten it. I've got a little hand water that I'll get here in a minute, and I'll wet it down that way. I'm not going to try to use a coarse water spray on it, because what will happen is if it's coarse sprayed, it's going to move all this stuff around, move your seeds around. But anyway, it doesn't matter if this whole thing is covered or not, because another thing about using perlite or vermiculite is it's real easy to for the seeds to come up and germinate and pull their tops out. A lot of times when you just use soil, a lot of you might have raised onions and you have problems with your top that's connected to the seed. It won't pull out and come on up. Your root goes down and then your top raises up, and the seed is attached to a lot of them. But what happens if that's under the soil, then your onion stays in a loop and has a problem growing upright. In fact, a lot of times it kind of splits its leaves when it's trying to grow its next set of leaves. So when you use vermiculite or perlite, you don't have that problem. They can easily come through and come up and get out the soil. But anyway, that's basically where we're going to be, and I'll go ahead and plant this other one. Now, want to water these in good. These little sprayers work real good because they've got a really fine mist and they don't push everything around. So I started using this for my seeds. Now, once you get this good and watered in, and you want it to stay moist, if you have these little Jiffy trays, just put the top on. If you don't, a simple piece of plastic or saran wrap or something over the top so it stays moist. Once they start to germinate, take it off because you don't want these seeds to have too much moisture. Once a few of them start to germinate, then that's chances are the others are fixing to be right behind them. Uncover it, give it air, and make sure that you still keep it moist enough that the seeds will grow. I hope you liked part one of this series for this is going to be for 2021. Start your seeds, in which, like I say, it's the end of the year, so you need to start some of those seeds. If you're planting onions, that's going to be one for now. Pretty soon, the brassicas, it's going to be time to start planting up north. I know your dates are going to be a little bit later, but you don't know if you're going to be able to get a lot of your transplants and stuff like that, because the way it was this year, I know I heard a lot of people trying to find seeds. They couldn't find them, and what ended up happening was they just didn't have them. Now, I know there's a shortage, and I had a hard time finding a lot of mine, because what I always do is buy my seed for next year at the start of the year before. So I did find most everything I wanted. There were a few varieties that are still not filled, and hopefully I'll get them, but it's not like I'm going to be without. But if you like this video, hit that thumbs up, share it for your friends, and of course, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe, hit that bell button so you'll be notified. Happy gardening.